Hey y'all, it is Hope at Crafty Hope, and I am working on ICADs 55, 56, and 57 in this challenge. ICAD stands for Index Card a Day, and it is a challenge from Daisy Yellow that ended at the end of July, but I am still working on showing y'all what it is I made. And because we're getting so close, I think it's this video and one more, and then I'll be all done. So, I've got information about ICAD in the description box below. So anyway, this is card number 55 and the prompt was pendulum. So I put down just some book paper. I think that's from a book on how to do shorthand is what it looks like. And then I stuck a little masking tape around in a couple places to give it some texture. And I'm spraying a couple of homemade alcohol inks and then some tulip fabric spray in yellows and reds. I don't even know why I picked out those colors. It just something told me to kind of go with those. They kind of ended up giving this really kind of blurry where they blended this blurry coral color. It was kind of neat. So I dug that a lot. And so then I've got a little bit of this Heidi Swap spray, and for some reason it was not spraying. So I just took the cap off and smeared it around on the page, just trying to give a little bit of darkness to that because the red and the yellow added so much brightness. I wanted to bring it back down a bit. Now this is the Deco Arts Media crackle paste. It is some amazing crackle paste, and I am just using a palette knife to spread it on here, and then I'm going to leave it to dry because it does better if you just let it air dry than if you blast it with the heat gun. So we'll come back here in just a second. You see where I let it dry for a little bit. And I'm re-gluing down some of the areas that were poking back up. So once I get that down, I am going over and I have got some black soot distress oxide that I am just gonna put a little bit of water on to try to get into some of those cracks and define them a little bit more. So I'm just using some water and a paintbrush and just putting it right in there so those cracks are popping a bit more because I like to be able to see that crackle. So, and then I've got this bead. It is some kind of charm. It already has a little loop at the top. And I'm taking some wire and making a wrapped loop to put it on. Now, I'll link either below or up in the top right. I show you how to make a wrapped loop on one of my videos. I'll link to that. And I'm just trying to figure out where I want that bead to hang from. So I am punching a hole right in the middle of my card, and I let that hang a little too long, so I'm re-measuring that out and putting it on there. And then I'm going to take a little bit of time. This takes longer than I want to. I trimmed that down, and then I'm making just a spiral, and that's just going to help anchor this pendulum that I've made onto the back of the card. And I really wish I'd put some kind of reinforcer or something back there, even a piece of tape, just to help hold that so it doesn't rip. But for right now, it seems to be holding up. Now, for some reason, I decided to kind of map out the swing of that pendulum and really kind of give it a feel. So I just used a pen to mark where it swings in the top and where it swings in the bottom. And then I had zoomed in and I got these small talk stickers, and I found one that says focus on what's important, because I was thinking about the fact that, when you do hypnosis, you're focusing on a pendulum, and so that's kind of where I was going with that sentiment. And then I inked around both the sentiment and with a Stabilo and then the card itself to frame it up. And that's it. And here I'm going to give you a quick look at the spiral I created on the back so you can see that. All right. Card 56 here, the prompt was spin, and I decided for some reason I wanted to create like a spinner, like a game spinner. So I've got an arrow that's out of the, Tim Holtz had a bunch of, what are they called, grunge board that had like cutouts, die cut type things, and I punched out an arrow in there to use on there, and you see I painted with some gesso, and I painted it with white gesso and all of that. Oh my gosh, this one took a little while because things, I don't know, I had a vision, but things just kept happening on this one. So I've got a compass there and I am measuring out a circle. I don't know, I think my pencil was not level or something like that. So I measured out that circle on a piece of white cardstock, and then I'm just going to cut it out with some scissors. And I also divided it, and then for some reason I wanted six little triangles, little pie shapes on my circle, but I didn't measure them out exact, so it's definitely I don't know, free-handed and unusual. So anyway, so I'm coating that arrow again with a little more gesso. Again, I don't know. This arrow is going to disappear here in a little bit because you see I put it down with my watercolors. It's underneath that top corner of the watercolors. And I'm going ahead and painting my white cardstock. And I've decided basically to make a color wheel. So I'm putting down my primary colors first, the red and the blue and the yellow. And then I'll fill in, and I really should have just mixed those three to make the other colors, but whatever. I did it, yeah, I don't know. Since I had all those watercolors, I went ahead and just did the orange and the green and the purple from what was on that palette. So I'm putting those down, just a little bit of water, and again, I didn't spray any extra water or anything. I just wanted to make a pretty little color palette there, and I put it outside, and now you see my little arrow's gone. So yay. I we'll get to in a minute, but I took a Sharpie here just to define the definition between each of those colors, and then I've got a Sharpie pen, and I am just outlining each of the pie shapes of those colors that I put in there, the watercolored areas. And that's probably one of my favorite parts of this whole thing, is that. So when I ink up the edges, because I realized it would be too hard to put the black Sharpie around the outside, and now I am looking for that arrow. And y'all, you see me looking all over my desk. I turned the camera off here in a little bit, and I looked on the floor, and I could not find it. I found it like a week later while I was sweeping. I don't know where it was because I looked in all those areas where I slept. It's bizarre. So I just got another one, and I painted it with black gesso this time because really that's all I wanted. I don't even know why I bothered with the white gesso in the first place with the other one, but whatever. So I put all of that aside and go ahead and take my Uhu glue stick, and I'm glued down a piece of, and this is just some newsprint that I had used in another project, and this was a little bit of excess. I had, left over. It was excess. So and had a couple marks on it. That was fine. I kind of wanted the background to just be kind of plain since I knew I had that color wheel that was going to go on top. So, but I use, what am I going to use? I think it's that's just a black pen that I scribble with, and there's a Neo Color too, and I think I'm going to use a Distress crayon, and I'm just making some black marks in there, and then I'm going to take a paintbrush and just kind of go over the whole thing to make it a little more, I don't know, blendy or something, and then I'll dry all of that. Now, I hate that this card took so long because it really is some fairly simple elements to it, and when you look at it, makes a pretty neat statement. So anyway, so there's my my color wheel, and I realized that my hole punchers wouldn't reach the center of it, so I've got that Tim Holtz, I don't even know what the thing's called, like a pokey tool that I ended up poking a hole through everything, and then I've got a brad, and I'm going to go ahead and just glue my color wheel straight over that, and I think I end up having to repunch the hole because I knew it was going to be too hard to line that up. And then I'm going to put my brad through my arrow and through the color wheel and through the card. And you see I'm going to use a piece of paper there. I was trying to give it a little bit of room so that it could spin, so that that brad wasn't so tight on there. And it doesn't spin freely. I mean, you definitely push it around, so it doesn't do exactly what I want it to do, but you can spin it. So, and then I grab again my chit chat stickers, and this took me far too long. I finally found a phrase. Oh, and I'm not even sure what it says. It says, what does it say? Let life surprise you. And I thought, when you use a spinner, you're kind of taking a chance and waiting for a surprise. So I used some Neo colors, I think, there to do that same rainbow effect on the card. I mean, on the sentiment, and just kind of blended that together, and then outlined that sentiment. And here I'm playing with it, and I finally decided I'm just done. So here, take a couple looks and we'll get to the last one. Now, card 57, the last of these three, has the prompt of kite. And I don't know, I didn't know how I wanted to bring kite into this. So I took a piece of scrapbook paper that had like a sky blue color on it, but it also has like book text and stuff in the background. And kites are in the sky, so that was my thinking. And that was kind of the only way that kite got brought in here. I mean, there are a couple little things that I put in here, but this is probably the one that varied from the prompt a lot. Now I used a pencil just to put some scribbles in the background to break it up, and I've got a hand carved stamp with just some circles on it that I'm throwing on there. And then I'm gonna put some color on there. That is one of the color shifts on there. It's kind of a blue green. And then I've got a palette knife with some yellow paint that I'm just scraping on, just kind of building up my background for this. And let's see, what am I going to do next? I try it a little bit while you see I'm testing out a couple different things. And then for some reason, I pull out this red Colorix crayon and I drew some lines and I don't know, were too structured, I think. So I added some water to try to break down that structure of them a little bit, but then I decided, okay, well, I'll just cover some things up and I add some texture with some drywall tape. I love the drywall tape. It's an easy, quick way to add texture, and I love the little dots that are poked in it. So I'm just sticking that around on the page, covering up some things. And then I start, what was I looking for there? Oh, I grabbed some yellow washi tape. I think I wanted to bring that yellow back in there. And so I'm just sticking it down in a couple places with the drywall tape to kind of make the yellow pop. And then I've got this piece of red fabric, and I think that's why I brought that red Colorix in there. And I think that was another way I was trying to incorporate kite, was by having a piece of fabric. You know, some kites are made out of fabric, and this one, it's not exactly kite shaped, but it has that movement that like a kite would have. So I decided that's what I would use. And then I'm trying to layer things together here to put a sentiment on. And I use like the back of the drywall tape and a little bit of the scrapbook paper that was left over. And I think I find the sentiment says wonderful, and it was just what popped out at me from the large print books text. And then I'm just using, since I've got so many different textures there, I'm using some matte gel medium to stick everything down. And I mean all of it. And then I'm going to take a pen here in a second. Oh no, first I'm going to ink up the edges to frame everything up. And then I'm going to take a pen in a second and just circle the word wonderful to kind of make it pop up. But since I put that black down, I wanted something more in that. So I add a couple little dashes around on the card just to kind of bring that black back in there. And I think that's going to be it for this card, guys. I really hope you like this series. I've got one more video to show my last 4 cards. But if you like this one, make sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe. And let me know if you have any comments. Alright, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.